Stay tuned for the Splash Live. It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the Greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft, and I encourage you also to stay tuned with us all the time on your social media. Facebook at Civic Center TV 15, as well as X, Instagram, and of course on YouTube, where you can follow us and subscribe for free at Civic Center TV. And as well, you can always find us on our website, civiccentertv.com, and all the original programming you want to see from us here in Greater West Bloomfield each and every day on our program schedule. Our top story today is on the basketball court, where the Orchard Lake Road Showdown saw a big rematch to kick off the weekend between the West Bloomfield Lakers hosting the Orchard Lake St. Mary's Eaglets as they pursue their second consecutive MHSAA Division I championship. The Eaglets ultimately took home a resounding victory over the Lakers, but it was a great showing of what their team is made of in 2025. And I had a chance to talk to both a high school and college basketball legend in the state of Michigan, whose son plays for Orchard Lake St. Mary's. And that man, Mateen Cleaves, told me why he thought the Eaglets came out victorious in that big game.
I thought they won the game on the defensive end. Obviously, we know they got great scores. Led by Trey McKinney. Seniors, Sherrod, the Zip. But I thought they won the game on the defensive end, and that's going to be the key for us. I think we can score when we need to, but the key for us, I think, is really lock in on the defensive end, and we should move further.
Your son's had a hell of an upbringing in the game of basketball, some good mentors so far, and being able to play with some of these seniors on this Orchard Lake team that have won state titles, play under Coach Covert. How's that experience been like for him?
Oh, it's been great, and he embraced it every day. He loves it. He talks about, the senior leadership and being able to compete against Trey and Zip and Sherrod, and then he's, picking things up from them as well. So, he's always in the gym looking and finding ways to get better, and he's definitely benefiting from being around some great players and great coach, and so he's excited about it, and yet he just continues to try to learn and get better every game so he can, move further in the future.
It's a team that's been going quite far in the state tournament over the last several years, winning, of course, last year in familiar territory for yourself at the Breslin Center. What do you think this team's got to do going forward the next few games to get back to East Lansing and bring home their second consecutive title?
Block out all the noise, just take it one game at a time and keep playing together. I think when we play together, we're the best team in the state, but they just got to keep playing together, share the ball, keep working and helping each other on the defensive end. But if they can do that and play together, play hard with passion, I think they got a chance to win it all again.
We're about to head into March, and as we head into March, Trey McKinney will be playing at Michigan next year, but got to think about those Spartans having a pretty good year over there too with Coach Izzo.
Yeah, they are, man. They playing really good this year. And once again, same thing I'm saying here. When they play together at Michigan State, they're a very good team. When they try to do it individually, they struggle. So same thing, Michigan State's playing together right now. You mentioned Trey going to Michigan. That hurt my heart. And I'm going to be torn watching the game now because, I'm a Trey fan and he's from Flint. And, I'm going to wish him the best. But that's going to be a tough one to watch next year. But as you mentioned, Michigan State is playing good because they're playing together and they're listening to the best in the business, and that's Coach Izzo.
Orchard Lake St. Mary's defeating the Lakers tonight, winning a district championship. They move on to the regionals next week and a few steps back from going back to East Lansing to compete for their second consecutive state title. Alongside Mateen Gleaves at West Bloomfield High School, I'm Tyler Kieft, Civic Center TV. Had a great conversation with Mateen Gleaves about the team and about Michigan State basketball, and it was kind of a mirror image of what happened over the weekend. Green and white versus red and white on Friday at West Bloomfield High School. The team in red and white, that being Orchard Lake St. Mary's, came out victorious. The other side of that on Sunday in East Lansing as Michigan State defeated the Wisconsin Badgers. As for the Eaglets, their 69-44 victory over the Lakers on Friday brings them now into the regionals in region number 7 after winning District 25. They will take on Grand Blanc on Tuesday at 5:30 at Rochester Adams High School. I had a chance to talk to head coach Todd Covert after the game on Friday, where it was a much tougher matchup than many would have expected on paper. A struggling Lakers team with a record that doesn't really jump off the page versus the number 1 team in the state, but Coach Covert had high praises for the Lakers and for Coach Arnett Jordan after that performance on Friday night.
You know, I got a lot of respect for Coach, and he does a great job, and that's, you know, whatever their record was, 8-16 this year or whatever, but that might be the best 8-16 team I've ever seen. They got, you know, 2 major Division I guards, and that's a really good team, and we've got some great players, and you know. But I'm proud of my kids. I mean, they locked in, and we had a game plan, and they executed it, and you know, we're happy to come out here with a victory. It's you know, when you're playing for Orchard and Commerce Lake Road, it's a little different, right? You know, you're coming into their home turf, and you know, luckily it wasn't tight at the end, because you never know what can happen. So.
And you had West Bloomfield on your journey to a championship a year ago. It's got to be pretty special to start that journey again with them in the district finals in 2025. But the player that really stood out tonight was Isaiah Hines. He was fantastic, leading the charge from the guard position, shot really efficiently, and moved the basketball well too.
He did. That was probably his best game. You know, we put him on 4 as well. It was, you know. Shoot it from anywhere, and as long as it's in the gym, he's going to shoot it. And he's so he had a double extra job tonight, and you know, they went big early. We thought they might do that, and you know, they had a good game plan. You know, they did a good job on us, and but our defense really carried us.
Yeah, and the physicality too was what really stood out from the seeing eye test, both for West Bloomfield and for St. Mary's. How does that help you prepare, your team prepare for some of the bigger matchups that are coming up against teams that are as physical and as large as your team is at St. Mary's?
Yeah, well, you get that in the Catholic League. I mean, it's sometimes borderline UFC every night in the Catholic League, but you know, I think we're battle tested, and we just got to stay focused, and you know, nothing is promised to us. So
yeah, you're just a few games away. The benefit this year is that you know what it takes to get to the Breslin Center and to bring home the big trophy at the end of the season. How does that change the mindset of your team, particularly your elder leadership in the locker room as you approach those last few games of the year?
Well, I think it's just, you know, what perspective you have, and you just, you know, it's hard not to look at the end, but you know, we got a game on Tuesday, and that's what we're getting ready for. So
you had a little bit of a debate over when practice is over the weekend.
Yeah.
That all get worked out?
Yeah,
you guys practicing?
Boy, that was probably the biggest fight we've had in a good couple weeks there. But yeah, we got 10:30 tomorrow morning. So.
And that's exactly when they did practice. First thing Coach told me after the game when he came up to me is like, hey, sorry I'm late coming back to talk to you. I told you I'd be back in a couple of minutes. We had a big debate over when practice was going to be. Hey, you win big, you get to have that debate in the locker room afterward. We saw great team basketball from the Eaglets on Friday as they took on the West Bloomfield Lakers in that 69-44 victory. Again, they will continue on this week, playing Tuesday night at 5:30 in the regional semifinal at Rochester Adams. They'll be the away team in that matchup as well, going up against Grand Blanc. That's a very even matchup on paper coming into that game. The Eaglets 17-6. Grand Blanc, however, 16-7. So maybe perhaps a little stronger competition than they've seen earlier on in the playoffs. But they are well primed for that, playing in the Catholic League, as Todd Covert told me as well. I also had a chance to speak to Eric Pierce, the West Bloomfield High School Athletics Director, on Friday night, as this was a unique opportunity for West Bloomfield to showcase themselves with some playoff basketball, but have a close-to-home matchup against their neighbors just down the road in Orchard Lake Village and on Commerce Road as well. He told me a little bit about the experience of hosting that event and bringing the community together through sports.
Well, I tell you what, it's always exciting for us to host games like this. We want to draw people in to see our facilities here at West Bloomfield, to see how we run things as a staff, as employees here, but more importantly, to showcase our teams. We love to showcase our teams, getting them in front of the fans. We know it's a tough challenge tonight. Orchard Lake St. Mary's has got a fantastic team, fantastic squad. You don't get a ranking like they have without having a fantastic squad, but we're up for the challenge, and we welcome that challenge, and we're excited to host all the fans here.
Two very different teams for West Bloomfield. It's a little bit more balance across the board and a lot of star power for Orchard Lake St. Mary's, a team that's had a lot of wins in the last couple of years. West Bloomfield kind of struggled on the record side throughout this season. What makes your team primed for potentially a big upset in this one?
Well, for sure. We have a hard league schedule, and everybody knows that. And then our non-conference, we don't shy away from any type of challenge. And one of the things that it prepares you for, as we all know around here, is it prepares you for a postseason run. And Coach Jordan does a wonderful job of getting our kids ready for that postseason run. We saw it in the first round of the districts here with a very good Walled Lake Central team that came in. We came back, fought through adversity, and came out on top of that game. We're looking to play as a team and win each possession here. That's the big goal.
And regardless of playoff results, this team's had an exceptional season, getting into the playoffs, having the ability to host a game like this. Regardless of the outcome, talk about this team's identity in 2025 and how it's continued to help build the boys basketball program back to some glory.
Well, I think one of the biggest things that you can identify with this team is, as you said earlier, there's no real front forward person. Yeah, we have Curtis Britton, who's done some wonderful things. Chops Pittman's done some amazing things out there this year. But in order to win, in order to do things correctly, we have to play together. And that's an identity that you see through all of our sports programs here at West Bloomfield High School. And it's one where, they represent Laker Nation, they represent it with pride, and we look forward to a wonderful game.
It's always more fun, too, when you have those local connections, too. These kids are neighbors. They've played basketball together their entire life, and we're expecting two really raucous fan bases to fill out West Bloomfield High School. Talk about the experience of having this local crosstown matchup to kick off the playoff season.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you always wonder why there's a lot of great teams that are sometimes in districts, and some districts don't have a lot of great teams in them. But I tell you what, as we said before, we welcome the challenge. We welcome the opportunity to have our stands packed tonight. We love having the atmosphere. We love having the energy. It's one of the reasons why we have the facilities the way that we do, and it's going to be great to host everybody.
And how does this sort of exemplify what sports bring to a high school community like West Bloomfield, and when you bring in other high school communities along top of that?
Well, you get to see what it means to everybody, and it does. It brings a community together. There's no other way to put it. And to see your fans cheering for your team, and to experience the highs and lows, the ups, the downs, everything that goes through a season, but to still come out and support, it's awesome. And like I said, we are very fortunate in West Bloomfield to have had the success that we've had throughout the years, but more importantly, to have the fans and the support that we have. It's an awesome feeling.
Not the turnout, not the outcome, of course, that West Bloomfield was hoping for at the end of that ball game, ending their regular season and their playoff run after a 69-44 loss to Orchard Lake St. Mary's. But a lot to be proud of in that matchup. I mean, the praises that were shot toward the Lakers from Todd Covert and his staff. It may not have been the greatest season on paper for the Lakers, but they showed a lot of what that team's culture means in West Bloomfield, and that's going to say something for years to come in the West Bloomfield Bloomfield High School basketball program. Congratulations to the Orchard Lake St. Mary's Eaglets. They are moving on to the regionals, the semifinals on Tuesday. Should they get over the hump with that, Thursday night would be the regional finals. Both of those games happening at Rochester Adams. The semifinals against Grand Blanc Tuesday at 5:30. Plenty more basketball this week for playoff action across Greater West Bloomfield. The girls basketball team at West Bloomfield High School, they're also defending their championship. Their game for the district semifinals against Lakeland will tip off on Wednesday at West Bloomfield High School. Stay tuned with us for even more information on all of this playoff action. We'll be following both the Eaglets and the Lakers throughout the remainder of their playoff run. Facebook at Civic Center TV 15, YouTube, Instagram, and X at Civic Center TV. And you can just scan that QR code on your screen as we speak. You'll have all of our social media right at the palm of your hand on your phone or on your other device that you're scanning that with, and be able to follow us on all of our social media for the latest on the Lakers and the Eaglets and everything else happening in Greater West Bloomfield. Recently, Governor Gretchen Whitmer delivered her State of the State address, and a lot of what was in the focus of the governor's agenda for 2025 and a lot of what Congress is working on at the state level has to do with our education system. Dr. Danya Bazzi joins us now on the Splash Live to talk about how all of those different factors affect our students in the West Bloomfield School District. Dr. Bazzi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you on to talk about this, because the exciting news with the graduation metrics that have come in recently from across the state of Michigan are showing that schools here in Oakland County in particular are quite well ahead of the average graduation rates in comparison to the state as a total. For us close to home in West Bloomfield, what do you believe are some of the factors in our school district in West Bloomfield that are helping to keep Lakers ahead of the curve in that sense?
You know, I think one of the main things is what we do really well at West Bloomfield High School, as well as our other programs like Oakland Early College, is the college and career readiness. Our students come in ninth grade looking to their post-secondary education from the day that they step foot within our high schools. So we have a college and career counselor who that is their focus, to provide students with experiences and opportunities that will give them a path for their post-secondary education. So when you know the end goal, it's a lot easier to help students keep on track for that high school diploma, because they're already looking beyond that early on.
Bonding, redistricting, and other factors in recent years have been a focal point for the West Bloomfield School District, as well as some of its nearby counterparts in the several school districts that cover Greater West Bloomfield. And a lot of that has been focused on counteracting enrollment trends in past years and over at least the past decade, and really returning classrooms to that standard of kindergarten through 5th grade for elementary, 6th through 8th grade for middle school, and 9th through 12th grade for high school. That's something that's now in place once again in the West Bloomfield School District. How is that playing a factor in the continued success of our students in West Bloomfield?
You know, I think with the transition, at this point in the school year, we've found great success with it. Our families are, like the idea of having a consistent building K-5. Of course, whenever you make a major change like that, there's learning curves and getting comfortable with the new normal, so to speak. But really, I have to give credit to our building leaders, our 4 principals at each of those elementaries who have worked hand in hand to provide similar experiences, consistent experiences for our families, and to support staff who might have changed a building or might have changed teaching a grade level. I think that has really been the key to this. I think people see that this is going to help us stream, our academic progression and student supports by having K-5 buildings. Basically, we make adjustments, though, through the year to continue to ensure that we have, a smooth transition for our students, families, and our staff.
And from a maturity level, I'd imagine it's a little bit more of a soft transition when you have one middle school for those 6th through 8th graders who are now just in that 6th through 8 cohort, and certainly for high schoolers who were otherwise not really affected by these changes, being that they were still 9 through 12. But those elementary school kids, that's really where you see these changes, switching schools, different classmates can kind of be a little bit more susceptible to those growing pains. And so not only do you combine the academic rigors of our classrooms in West Bloomfield, but social emotional learning has become something that's been more of a focal point academically in our schools in recent years, even beyond this. How is that also playing a factor in helping these kids make that transition to this new normal throughout our school district?
I think our curriculum in terms of executive functioning skills and social emotional learning goes hand in hand with our curriculum. A lot of times people think it's one or the other, but those two things go hand in hand. I'm a former high school math teacher, and in my career, I've not been asked, to rattle off the quadratic formula. I've been asked to work in teams, to problem solve, to manage difficult situations, to lead change. And those are types of qualities that we accomplish through our morning meetings at the elementary and through our advisory period at our middle and high school. Those skills, sometimes are referred to as soft skills. We know those to be essential skills, and they're really important when students go off into the workforce or go off into college to be able to have both the academic rigor and those executive functioning skills.
Yeah, last time I was asked to rattle off the quadratic formula, I just ran. I ran straight away out of that conversation and didn't come back. Dr. Danya Bazzi is with us, the superintendent of the West Bloomfield School District, as we talk about a number of different stories that are affecting our kids here in Greater West Bloomfield, including our local Lakers. A really sad story recently out of Oakland County as 3 kids were found living in some very serious conditions, virtually unattended by their parents. Luckily, we're able to have been rescued from that situation by local law enforcement. So it puts into focus for our academic leaders, what do they look out for when you may have these sort of situations that can kind of be hidden in the background to protect our kids? What sort of provisions are in place at our schools in West Bloomfield that may help to prevent issues like this from arising in our community?
Right. That really is an unspeakable situation, and my heart goes out to the children that experience that trauma and that harm. Within West Bloomfield, attendance has been something that has been at the forefront, especially since, the post-pandemic, in terms of making sure that our students are coming to school, because we know that nothing replaces in-person learning. Virtual learning is appropriate in some circumstances, but relationships are a big part of teaching and learning, and having students in school is our number one priority. Each of our buildings have protocols in terms of attendance, that when students are absent for extended period of time, there's outreach that takes place to those families to ensure that the students are safe and there's a reason for their absence. Again, they follow kind of the flow chart of the number of absences that a student might have. And those filters help us that if there's an extended period of time that a student's not with us, that we're able to help support. The main thing is that, we're trying to help families remove any barriers from getting to school. And that's our job, to partner with them and do the best we can. Ultimately, there's a responsibility also on the other side for families to get their students to school, but we work in partnership and to ensure that our students are there. So again, our administrative team and our administrative assistants, as well as our teachers, have protocols for when students meet a certain number of absences, and there's certain level of communication that goes out to those families to ensure that we help make sure that they're in school.
These sorts of issues taken very seriously by our local school districts and are being taken seriously in the wake of this tragic event in Pontiac where these kids were found in a really, really tough situation, virtually abandoned for a number of years. Representative Tom Kuhn from Troy, as well as one of our former representatives in our local area, Brenda Carter, a Democrat from Pontiac, introducing a bill in the House with Jeremy Moss from Southfield. Expected to introduce bills on accountability of this kind for parents and for school districts in the state Senate as well. Other things that have been sort of a topic of discussion related to our schools of late, Dr. Bazzi, at Governor Whitmer's State of the State recently, she had mentioned a couple of key topics related to our kids, in particular from a safety and a health standpoint, vaping, a growing issue amongst our youth and communities all across Michigan and including here in Oakland County. How is that topic being approached in our schools today in West Bloomfield? Because it's a lot different and a lot more easily accessible, I would say, than smoking was back in past decades, where cigarettes tended to be really the focal point in those discussions.
You know, we are very lucky in West Bloomfield. We partner with the West Bloomfield Youth Assistance as well as the Greater West Bloomfield Community Coalition with Lisa Berkey. We try to combat this through education and basically allowing students to understand the dangers of vaping. As you said, the education that has taken place with cigarettes, we've now seen a decline of usage among school-age students, and we have to really combat that at the same effort. Vaping, unfortunately, is masked. Cigarettes smell bad. They taste, bad, and it's kind of easier to say that. Vaping is now marketed with flavors, and it tastes good, and it's kind of an undercover vice that really is harmful to the health and safety of our students and, as our community as a whole. So we're combating that through educational programming with those two organizations within West Bloomfield, and we'll continue to try and combat that through education. West Bloomfield also participates in the MiFi survey, which is through the state of Michigan. It's given at particular grade levels, and it lets us, it's a student survey that is given anonymous, but it allows us to understand kind of where we are at with usage and then be able to attack that through the programs that we have so that students certainly know the dangers.
More information and resources on addressing vaping with your kids is available through the Greater West Bloomfield Community Coalition, their website, gwbcoalition.org. Dr. Danya Bazzi, Superintendent of the West Bloomfield School District, is with us today on the Splash Live. Lastly, one of the key points of Governor Whitmer's State of the State was addressing cell phone usage in our classrooms, because while this access to technology can be a great resource for our kids to have access to information and to maybe garner some ideas for some of the work they're doing inside and outside of the classroom, I can imagine also the distraction of these devices continuing to grow over the years. How is cell phone usage being addressed in our classrooms in West Bloomfield?
That's a topic that is, highly debatable and a lot of emotions around it in terms of cell phones and do they belong in schools? We know that the research is really clear on appropriate use and the impact to mental health of our students if there's overusage. But at the same time, for example, I don't go anywhere without my phone. And it allows me to stay connected, to do my job at a more efficient pace. But there has to be a balance, right? There has to be an appropriate place to use that. And that's what our staff does. Basically, age appropriateness, if it's appropriate to the curriculum. And so we don't want to do this combatively. We want to do this in partnership with our families in terms of getting to a place where there's the appropriate usage so that it doesn't become a distraction, doesn't negatively impact their academic career while they're with us, but also that they are utilizing it in a way that keeps us competitive, because technology is the way that things are done in the world today. And so we don't want our students to be behind and not be able to use those capacities, but there is a time and place in terms of social media and different types of usage within the classroom. There are policies at each of our buildings that we adhere to. Of course, like anything that you implement, there's debate and discussion around that, and we continue to refine it. I'll be curious to follow this legislation, because if it does go somewhere, I think we really need to partner with our community and students and establish policies that meet everybody's needs and that we're all on the same page.
The two magic words, media literacy, something we're teaching our kids with these devices being ubiquitous in their lives, and going forward, they're going to be a key part of our classrooms as well. Dr. Bazzi, anything else for us before we let you go today?
No, we're just excited. As you can see at the Chico site, they're starting the foundation work. There's a lot of great things happening. I'm really excited, and kudos to our elementary staff who piloted they piloted 2 elementary literacy resources this year, with one of them being recommended for implementation for next year at the entire K-5 level. It's going to increase our rigor in meeting the needs of our students in terms of literacy at the elementary levels. So a lot of great things happening, and we thank the community for their continued support.
Yeah, we're enjoying a little bit of an earthquake simulator at Green Media Center for the time being, but we know it's all for good things happening right next door over at Chico. Dr. Bazzi, thank you so much as always.
Thank you.
Glad to talk to Dr. Bazzi about those issues. They're questions that parents and students alike have in our community, especially on the ever-pervasive issue regarding cell phones in class. There seems to be a school of thought where some believe cell phones should be eliminated from class. They should be put away. They should be out of the reach of kids so there's not that distraction. And then it seems like the West Bloomfield School District's overarching point of view on this is that technology is part of these kids' lives. They should be able to learn to use it in a way that benefits their education instead of taking away from it, and be able to understand when they're getting distracted, when they're overusing media, particularly social media. So plenty more to dive into with that in the future for sure, as that policy gets organized throughout the West Bloomfield School District, and of course statewide and perhaps even federal input comes into play as well. For more updates on that and other issues in the West Bloomfield School District, you can visit their website at wbsd.org, their Facebook page at West Bloomfield Schools, or of course stay with us right here on the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Well, we're kicking off the week today, but a big celebration is on its way across the Metro Detroit area. One of the favorite holidays of the entire year for our local area is Fat Tuesday, otherwise known as Punchki Day, and they'll be celebrating over at Orchard Lake Schools as well, where they host the Polish Institute for Culture and Research at Orchard Lake. Joining me on the program to talk more about their celebration of this holiday with some history dating all the way back to ancient Poland is Dr. John Radzilowski, who is the director of the Polish Institute of Culture and Research. I spoke to him about this earlier on over the weekend to get more of an insight on how this culture connects to our community and how they'll be celebrating at Orchard Lake Schools. Joining us now on the program for more information on some of that connection and history is their director, John Radzilowski. Thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Radzilowski.
Good morning. Thank you.
Yeah, glad to have you on to talk about this because it's one of the biggest celebrations in the Detroit area of the year. People look forward to what they call Punchki Day every single year, but it really connects back to Polish culture that made its way over to the Metro Detroit area in observance of this Christian holiday. Give us a little bit of that background.
Yeah, when Polish immigrants came here, obviously they brought a lot of those traditions and transplanted them here, Americanized them to some extent, but also shared them with their neighbors of many different ethnic groups. So if you go to any Polish bakery, you'll see people of all backgrounds lining up to get their pączki. So it's really become kind of a universal day. We like to say that on Punchki Day, everyone's a little bit Polish. And of course, it got its origins, as you mentioned, prior to Lent. Lent is a time of sacrifice and fasting and preparing for Easter. But also, the balance of that is to enjoy, to joy in creation, joy in all the gifts that we've been blessed with. And Punchki Day is kind of a way to celebrate that, to remember all the gifts we've been given, and to celebrate the goodness of God and the goodness of life.
And we know here in southeastern Michigan that there's a wide variety of cultures. Here in Greater West Bloomfield, it is such a melting pot. But when people think of Paczki Day, when they think of Fat Tuesday, they tend to think of communities like Hamtramck. So how does our area, particularly Orchard Lake, maintain that strong connection to the Polish community in southeastern Michigan, but to Poland proper even today at institutes like yours?
Well, Orchard Lake Schools has been here in the West Bloomfield area since 1909, so we're pretty well established. We started out in Detroit in 1885 and moved here, so we've been a part of this community and a part of this part of the metro area for over a century, and so there's been a strong Polish presence here ever since. This has been a center for the Polish community. There are around 800,000 Michigan residents with Polish descent, so it's a pretty large group, especially in the metro area. And there's certainly this on the west side of the metro area. We've had a significant Polish presence as well. So this has been part of our tradition ever since.
Dr. John Radzilowski is with us. He is the director of the Polish Institute of Culture and Research at Orchard Lake Schools, joining us on today's edition of the Splash Live. You can find more information on the Polish Institute, picrol.org, picrol.org, or search Polish Institute Orchard Lake for more information on their programs all throughout the year. Dr. Radzilowski, people are going to be celebrating in all their own unique ways across our local area as we head into Fat Tuesday and throughout that day for celebrations across southeastern Michigan. But they wanted some insight on more traditional celebrations of this. Actually, it's a bit later on in the week, typically, I see from our notes here. It's usually Fat Thursday is a celebration, not Tuesday.
Yeah, in Poland, and that was a concession to Americans. Obviously, we're familiar with celebrations like Mardi Gras, which happens on a Tuesday. In Poland, they've already celebrated, or they've begun celebrating, and it's Fat Thursday, so it's the Thursday before Ash Wednesday, and so that's when they eat their paczki. We here in America, of course, on Thursday, on Fat Thursday, you can have your paczki. You can also have it on Tuesday, so you can enjoy it on both of those days. But as a concession to the American customs, and that's why this is really a Polish American celebration. It's really adapted to, as a lot of immigrants who came to this country and continue to come to this country do. Their cultures are not just an import from the old country, but they're really adapted to American conditions. We live in a society with many different cultures, many different traditions, and so part of that that legacy is how do we explain ourselves to our neighbors of many different ethnic groups, and making a little adjustment from a Thursday to a Tuesday is a small concession, but that really emphasizes the importance of that pre-Lenten celebration, because everyone's already familiar with Mardi Gras, so we're just participating in that aspect of it. So it really is an American adaptation, but hey, you can celebrate on both days. It's all good. And then the paczki tastes just as good on Thursday as on Tuesday.
So then I got to ask, how is your team over at the Polish Institute going to celebrate as we head into Fat Tuesday, head into Fat Thursday, and bring this celebration to be here in southeastern Michigan?
Well, we have on Tuesday, we are giving out, we have obviously a large student body here at our high school. So all the students are and the staff get at least one paczki, should they wish to have that. And we're also we've been taking orders from our Orchard Lake community for that as well. This weekend, we have a new exhibit opening up in our Galleria on biography and art, looking at how famous people are commemorated through art and historical artifacts that are in our collection. So we welcome people to come and visit that. We're open on Sundays. The first Sunday of every month from 12 to 3, but you can also make appointments individually and for groups just by going on our website, contacting us and setting that up with us. We are on a high school campus, so we can't just have walk-ins during the week when the school is running. But we're open to people coming by as long as they can make an appointment with us. And we're having events. And you mentioned this is the lead up to Easter. So at the beginning of April, we're having an egg decorating workshop for Pisanki. So you can go on our website and sign up for that as well. If you want to learn that art of how to make beautiful decorated eggs. That's another wonderful tradition that we like to carry on here. So really throughout the next a month and then thereafter, we continue to celebrate those cultural ties.
It's a great facility over there, your newly renovated Galleria. I was there for the soft opening just a little bit over a year ago. It's a fantastic space for multiple different kinds of events and celebrations. So if you're out there in the community and have not been able to get a chance to get over to that Galleria, highly suggested. In the meantime, you can find more events from the Polish Institute of Culture and Research at Orchard Lake Schools on their website, picrol.org. That's picrol.org. Dr. John Radzilewski is with us on the Splash Live, the director of the Polish Institute of Culture and Research at Orchard Lake Schools. Got to ask you before we leave. Pączki Day is on its way in Greater West Bloomfield and across the local area. Everybody seems to have their favorite flavor for those that partake each and every year. What's yours?
My favorite is one that's actually pretty hard to get here in the U.S. It's called rose hip, or it's called in Polish dzika rosa, or wild rose, and it's made with a kind of a wild variety of rose called rose hip. It has a really delicate flavor. But I like all the fruit flavors as well. But that's my favorite, and when and where I can get it, I never pass up that opportunity.
Well, John, we appreciate you coming on and telling us a little bit more about our special connection to Pączki Day, to Polish culture here in the Greater West Bloomfield area, and wish you a happy holiday coming up as well.
Thank you, and you too.
Great to get a local perspective on Fat Tuesday. We think about communities like Hamtramck as being in the spotlight on a day like Pączki Day, but there's so much connection to Polish culture in Greater West Bloomfield through the Polish Institute of Culture and Research at Orchard Lake Schools. They're going to have their own big celebration on Fat Tuesday. Hopefully you'll have a pleasant day as well as you partake and celebrate across Greater West Bloomfield and around the Metro Detroit area. We got plenty more coming up on the Splash Live, a little bit from our police foundation and from our firefighters as well. Stay with us live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live. Want to enjoy Civic Center TV on your social media? Find us on Instagram at Civic Center TV. Get notified when we upload one of our interviews, full episodes, and more. Thank you for watching and listening to Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Hi, I'm Lauren Azuri, the Park Naturalist Supervisor for West Bloomfield Parks. Congratulations to you, Civic Center TV, for hitting 1 million views on YouTube. We really appreciate your partnership in spreading nature education in a creative way in our community. I'm Lauren Azuri, proud to be 1 in a million.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. The sad reality is, fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kids should know.
What people are watching in Sylvan Lake, Civic Center TV, and 89.3 Lakes FM. And now, back to the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. Thank you very much for joining us and, as always, for staying tuned to us online and on social media as well. Facebook at Civic Center TV 15. You can also find us on Instagram, X, and subscribe for free on YouTube at Civic Center TV, or scan that QR code that's on your screen on civiccentertv.com as we speak, and you'll have links to all of our social media, so you don't have to remember all of our different handles, all the different places we are. You can just click right through and follow us for free right off the bat. It'll take you 10 seconds. A great way to stay up to date on what's happening in Greater West Bloomfield. We talk all the time about how you can support our local police and our other first responders, but how do they support their colleagues in the police force, in the fire department, and across our community? We sent reporter Jake Schaff out in the field to learn more.
For the last 18 years, Wonderland Lanes has been supporting the West Bloomfield Police Foundation by holding their annual Glow Bowl bowling event, with residents from all across the West Bloomfield community stopping by to lend their support to the West Bloomfield police officers as well as their families. And with an event that's lasted the test of time like this one has, you know it's built up an amazing reputation.
Well, it's really exciting because this is the 18th year, and this event brings people together to support the West Bloomfield Police Foundation. What people don't understand, I think, is that the West Bloomfield Police Foundation does support police and fire families in the community, but they also support the entire community as well as other communities, particularly in Oakland County. I was the president of the Police Foundation 18 years ago when we started this event, and Narelle Heinold helped me do that, and today she is still the mastermind behind this event. So I have seen it grow, and we just continue to have new supporters join every year, and we just continue to grow the support of what this foundation does. And this is a very important event in all of those endeavors.
What have been some of the things that you've seen from this event as it's grown over the last 18 years?
It's the donations and more of the community. The sponsors are bigger and better each year. As you can tell by the gifts, I mean, people are willing to buy raffle tickets because it's not your nickel and dime event. It might be a little costly, but it all goes for a good event, and it supports a great community. By winning these prizes, people are winning on the other end that you're buying the raffle tickets for. So it really is a win-win for the community and the bowlers.
Just fun every time. You just are not disappointed ever. They do a great job. The food after you bowl is amazing. You know that the money's going where it needs to go. We trust them. They put it where it needs to go if anybody needs help with it. So it's just an amazing event.
It's a great feeling, just seeing everybody get together. A lot of them don't know why they're here. They just know that they're out here to support the men and women of the police department. It's great. I've been doing this for about 6-7 years now, helping out this foundation. It's great.
Narelle, who runs the whole event, she came to me many years ago, and they were looking for a venue, and it just seemed like it was a great fit from the moment it started. She's a wonderful partner. All the individuals that come to this event are obviously community-based people within the police force, and so it's just been a great event every single year. Everybody looks forward to it. It's a built-in thing here at Wonderland. We know it's going to happen every year, and it's going to be fantastic. The people in this community care. They come out, they support, and it's great that we can have fun while still doing something so positive.
You never want to have to go 1 foot backwards. You always want to go forward. Help more, bigger, better, best. That's the bottom line. Bigger, better, and every year it's been bigger, better, best.
Every little bit of support towards our West Bloomfield Police Department goes a long way, and it certainly isn't done alone. It's the combined efforts of the entire community that help make this city as incredible as it is, as we thank these officers for everything they do with a day of fun and a day of giving. For Civic Center TV, I'm Jake Schaff.
Appreciate the report, Jake. You can support the West Bloomfield Police Foundation on their website, wbpolicefoundation.org, or you can also support them by way of following them on Facebook at WBP Foundation for even more information, events throughout the year, other fundraisers, and of course, to keep up to date with our local police foundation. Close to home, our firefighters are hard at work each and every day, but there are different issues that are affecting their present and their future. Our fire chief, Greg Flynn, who serves as the chief for both West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Orchard Lake Village, and Sylvan Lake through the Tri-City Fire Partnership, was recently on the road to Washington, D.C. to advocate for firefighters locally and beyond with some of our leaders in Congress. Our reporter Jake Schaff had a conversation with Chief Flynn about their conversations in Washington, D.C.
We have Fire Chief Greg Flynn joining us right now on The Splash. Greg, great to see you.
Jake, good to be with you.
Absolutely. Glad to have you with us. As always, really excited to be getting into this conversation. So let's just jump into it. What specific communications did the Michigan Firefighters Association highlight during this meeting with Representative Stevens?
Hey, Jake, the Michigan Association of Fire Chiefs had the opportunity to go in and have a real candid conversation with the Congresswoman about appropriations in the federal budget for the fire service, and really looking at how we fund the SAFER grants, which are opportunities for communities. Really, we're advocating for across Michigan, but you rightly framed that it also impacts the entire nation. But how our communities here in Michigan to increase their staffing of firefighters that can be in their engine houses, in their communities, ready to respond. We talked about the assistance to firefighter grants for equipment and getting appropriations for those, appropriations for the National Fire Academy and continuing the executive development and command development, in fire investigator growth, all that happens at the National Fire Academy and the classes that they take on the road. So we spilled over into lithium-ion batteries and sprinkler systems and tax incentives for those builders that are putting these life-saving fire suppression systems in buildings and giving them incentives to do so, because we know all of these things, protection comes at a cost. And so we covered all of these, and Congresswoman Stevens, along with the rest of our 14 congressional reps in the state, were all eager to have a conversation with us, and we couldn't be more grateful.
Great. Glad to hear a lot of great conversations were to be had with Congresswoman Stevens. Lots of great topics to be getting into. How critical is federal investment in fire services sector for safety of both communities and firefighters themselves?
Well, the important thing to keep in mind is the fire service in general, and this is kind of a broad stroke, Jake, that just looking at how often people engage with the fire service. And honestly, in our community, very fortunately, this isn't a daily occurrence on the fire suppression side specifically. So funding for that, especially in our rural communities, can be very challenging. I think we've discussed on the show that a fire truck that used to cost, let's say, right around $450,000 to $500,000 pre-COVID, is now costing upwards of $800,000 to $900,000, almost $1 million for a standard engine pumper. So those types of things, those federal dollars can help these communities to offset some of that. And these are assets that are going to be 20, 25, 30-year assets. So we think it's a good investment in keeping all of our communities safe. And then those departments, as you've heard before, we network together with what we call mutual aid. And so we share those resources across community lines and, again, just create this fabric of safety, fire prevention across all of our communities.
Of course, and it sounds like a lot of the work that you guys are doing is not just to benefit the fire stations here in Michigan, but also to benefit fire stations all across the United States. And can you discuss some of the challenges that local firehouses are facing when it comes to maintaining or upgrading their equipment and infrastructure?
Sure. The technology that we use on the fire side and on our emergency medical services side is frequently going through upgrades and improving the services that we can render right there in someone's living room. So on the fire side, the real risk that we're looking at ensuring that we have the tools to mitigate are the stored energy fires, our lithium-ion batteries, our micro-mobility devices like scooters and e-bikes and one-wheels, in addition to all of those power tools and things like that you're using the battery packs on. We discussed the need for legislation, that there be some kind of standards through set forth in some legislation. You can go online. You can go to like a Home Depot and buy your replacement Ryobi or Milwaukee battery pack, let's say, for $80 or $90. Well, you could also go online and probably find 2 or 3 batteries for half that price from somewhere else. But we know that the quality behind those batteries and the probability of them going into what we refer to as thermal runaway, where those individual cells within the battery pack begin to combust, that's a real threat. And so we want to make sure that we are being smart in advocating for legislation that'll keep us safe on that technology front. And that even goes big, Jake. That goes into right here in West Bloomfield with the Tesla location here on Orchard Lake Road, and then the increase in electric vehicles in our community. Your fire department's going to be responsible if that thermal runaway takes place, and so we want to be prepared for that. And just quickly on the EMS side, we're constantly reviewing the technology, whether it's on our electronic patient capture, so how we're documenting and capturing the care that we provide in the front room and on the roads and all the way up to the emergency room. And also our devices that are monitoring oxygen levels, which is something that's been around for decades. But now we're looking at other things that we can monitor, not just blood sugar, not just carbon monoxide and dioxide levels. So we're looking at the whole spectrum of things and how we can continue to provide quality care, and this is the important part, Jake, that impacts clinical outcomes. We want to make decisions that we're investing dollars that are going to get people back to that pre-injury or pre-medical emergency state before they called 911.
Wow, that is a lot of great resources and a lot of great things that could help benefit the entire West Bloomfield community. For those just joining us right now on The Splash, we have Fire Chief Greg Flynn with the West Bloomfield Fire Department talking about his recent trip to Washington, D.C., along with the Michigan Firefighters Association for their conversation with Representative Haley Stevens. And how does the support from leaders like Representative Stevens help bring attention to the needs of the first responders at the federal level?
Well, first of all, we know that the Congresswoman, along with all of our representatives across the state, are eager to help. But I will tell you that Congresswoman Stevens is a highlight of our visit to D.C. in the sense that she and her staff always make time. She wants to meet with the fire chiefs, and so we're very appreciative of that. And she's always just so uplifting of our mission and what she can do to support that. And that's, I think, the takeaway that can be very challenging for all the advocacy groups that go either to the D.C. office or to the regional offices here in the state. Our congressional representatives are really, I believe, are trying to do the right thing with those federal dollars. And often it takes a minute. And while we might only get 25 or 30 minutes with them and we compress a lot of education in there, I think Representative Stevens, along with the other congressional reps, appreciate that time and appreciate that one-on-one so that they are making informed decisions and not just off of something on social media. And while those things can kind of heighten some awareness, really providing critical information that will support the legislation and really put our representatives on a firm platform when advocating for those dollars.
Of course, Representative Stevens is doing everything she can to make sure that every voice is heard. And it's important to have voices like you yourself, Greg, and the rest of the Michigan Firefighters Association to be speaking up on behalf of these firefighters. And how does the Michigan Firefighters Association work to ensure that the voices and the needs of firefighters are properly heard at the federal level?
Well, all of the advocacy groups in the state really do collaborate to ensure that the big mission critical items are being advocated for. This is I'm choosing my words carefully here because, I don't want to be involved necessarily with the politics, although it just inherently comes a bit with the position. But I do understand the intent behind some of the decisions that are being made here in our current events. And that's why it's incumbent upon myself, other chiefs, other advocates from the fire service to meet with our congressional representatives and ensure that they understand that these are real dollars going towards real technology, real people, real first responders that are creating critical outcomes in our communities. And I don't have a problem doing that. That is an easy thing for me to do when you look at the men and women of the WBFD 2 days in a row in the teens fighting fires in our community. They show up, they do their job well, and we continue to maintain a public safety readiness for additional stacked emergencies within our community with our mutual aid partners from Bloomfield Township and Waterford Regional and Southfield and Farmington Hills and all of our friends. So those are the types of things that the public safety professionals like the Michigan Association of Fire Chiefs and the Michigan Professional Firefighters Union and all these different groups, we need to educate. Not have emotional arguments, but really educate on the outcomes that we have. And I think that's what's going to continue to deliver those federal dollars. And this is something that everybody can get behind and know that this is what good government looks like.
That sounds great to hear. Really appreciate everything that you're doing for the people of West Bloomfield. I got one more question for you, Greg, before we let you go. Moving forward, what can local communities do to support the efforts to secure more federal funding for fire services?
It's an easy one. When you run into Congresswoman Stevens and you're a resident of West Bloomfield or anybody within her congressional district, and you say, thank you. Thank you for meeting with Chief Flynn and the other chiefs. Thank you for listening to our first responders. And thank you for saying yes and supporting legislation that puts those first responders in the best position to create the best outcomes for our community. When the representative hears that that's what the people that elected her Senator to Washington, D.C., and they're giving her feedback, that they're happy with it and they know that their fire chiefs are showing up. And we represented all fire chiefs. Every fire chief in Michigan couldn't go to those meetings. So our voices were carrying the message of all fire chiefs in Michigan. And so those are the things that every citizen, every resident within those congressional districts can do with their representatives. And again, I underscore that. Thank you. Thank you for your service, and thank you for moving the mission forward on the public safety column. And of all of the many missions that they have, they do put that as a priority, and we're grateful.
Well, we thank Representative Stevens for looking out for the state of Michigan, and we thank you, Greg, for being such a powerful voice for the firefighters all across this state. And, of course, we thank you so much for joining us today here on The Splash Live.
You bet. All the best.
Jake Schaff talking with our local fire chief, Greg Flynn, the West Bloomfield fire chief, and also the chief of the Tri-City Fire Department. You can keep up to date with them on their Facebook page at WB Fire Department for more updates and information on safety protocols and things you need to know for fire safety here in our community going forward. I want to leave you today with one final story that will put a smile on your face after a fond farewell happened on Friday for one of our local police officers in the West Bloomfield Police Department. Officer Kerr retiring at the early hour of 7 a.m. on the final day of February, his final day after 27 years in the West Bloomfield Police Department, 28 if you count his 1 year also as a police cadet. He had a number of different positions while being a police officer. He worked the midnight shift. He was a part of their precision driving and honor guard units, as well as their field training officer and a peer support officer as well, among his many roles over the years. Here he is posing with many people from his family and the police department on his final day as an officer. You can give your thanks to Officer Kerr and congratulate him on a fantastic career here in West Bloomfield on their Facebook page, West Bloomfield PD. In the meantime, follow us for even more information from across the Greater West Bloomfield area all week. Facebook at Civic Center TV 15, X, Instagram, and of course YouTube at Civic Center TV. Big thank you to our entire crew, Ryan Younglove, Calvin Brown, and Jake Schaff at Master Control, as well as out in the field. I'm Tyler Keefe, live, local, social. This is The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.